And in our studio right now is David White. He has held a number of different leadership positions with the Mid-Columbia Beekeepers Association. And David, it's just really delightful to have you here today.
Well, thank you, Christine. It's great to be here.
Oh, good. All right.
That's my cell phone. Somebody's texting me. So sorry about that.
that went off earlier today when he was in here, and I just thought it was hilarious. So obviously, David, you are really into bees. This
Yes.
is really an important topic to you. As I look at it, there are like two big streams. One is bees and their importance for agriculture, and secondarily, the hobby collection of bees. So let's talk about both of those. But first off, agriculture. You know, take us back to our high school biology days, but what do bees do? Why are they so important? What do they do?
Well, basically what we're using honeybees for is for pollination of plants, and they're usually beneficial plants. You know, the plants we use like apples and cherries and things like that, which are known throughout the Northwest. So, but any plants that bees are going to be pollinating, the basic thing, the biology of pollination is you have the stamen, which is the male part, which has the pollen, and then you have the stigma, which is the female part. And the key to that is transferring the pollen grains, which would be the same as sperm, to the female part so it can now make seeds, make fruit, and make seeds. So that's basically what the honeybee does. But you have certain plants like tomatoes and such that they pollinate within the flower themselves, so a little bit of a breeze will pollinate it. Then you have they go from flower to flower in the same plant, and sometimes wind and sometimes insects help with that, but typically for these other fruits, vegetables, and things like that, you need to go from one plant to the next plant, and that really requires an insect to carry it, and the honeybees get in there and they pull up the pollen and use the pollen for their own food, and in the process it's a mutual beneficial thing. So the plant is using the bee to reproduce, the bee is using the plant for food.
Okay. Have we found a way to artificially do that with trees in like orchards around here?
Yeah, around here, I don't know how practical that'd be. You'd have to hire a lot of people to do it, especially for apples and things like that. You'd have to hire people. They're doing it apparently, at least I had read that they were in China, where they used so many pesticides, they killed off so many bees that they actually had to have people go around with little feather dusters and like little feathers and actually physically pollinate each individual. That's so super labor intensive that I hope we don't get that way here.
Yeah. All right, well, the other thing that is affecting bees in agriculture that we've heard about for quite some time, probably at least the last decade, was, I think it's called, isn't it called colony collapse, or the disease that basically kills and destroys bees?
Yeah, it's known as a CCD, colony collapse disorder. And you know, if you go back in history, you can find out, you can read about different types of CCD, and they call it different things. They call it a crawling disease, they call it a disappearing disease, but it goes all the way back to the 1800s. And it seems to run in cycles, and it could be just the survival of the species type thing that's happening too. The most recent occurrence was back in the mid-2000s, early 2000s, like 2006 and 7, I believe, maybe 8 and 9, and it was horrendously bad for especially a lot of commercial guys, commercial beekeepers, and a lot of hobbyist beekeepers. But it caused all this big hoopla about people wanting to maybe get back into bees and sustaining beekeeping and things like that. So, in a way, it was a good thing.
All right. So, are bees back? Is our population sustainable right now? Is it flat?
It's there. For example, I believe the last year's losses, combined winter and summer, was 42%. That's really high. When I first started keeping bees back in the 70s, 10% was a standard that you'd expect to lose that in a year, 10% of your bees. It's not 42% or more is not acceptable. No, I lost all my bees last year. I had to replace all my bees this year.
You lost all of them last year?
All of them.
Why?
I had a few.
Why?
Don't know. They either starved out or they could have had some other diseases. They could have. It's really hard to do an autopsy on a dead colony of bees.
Okay. So farmers contract for bee services. They don't have the hives themselves, do they?
Typically, they do not. They don't have the resources to do both. Right, so they'll contract out for the bees.
Well, as I understood it, at one time, a lot of beekeepers actually traveled to California. I mean, they did the West Coast swing. they went to California for agriculture and then they were back up here. Is that still happening a lot?
Yes, to a huge amount. They have millions of colonies are required in Central California, in the San Joaquin Valley, for almonds, and that good strong colonies down there they'll gross $150 per hive. So if a beekeeper has 1,000 or 2,000 hives, you can do the numbers right there. That's a lot of money that they're getting for, about 6 weeks worth of work, 8 weeks worth of work. Then they, like for example, our beekeepers here in Washington, they'll bring their bees back up here for, if they can get here in time, for apricots, but then for apples and cherries and such, pears and things like that. But apples and cherries are the big crop up here that they're needed for in the spring. And they'll get another anywhere from $30 to $50, $60 up here per hive.
You know, in talking to you, you have quite an affinity for bees. And
Yes,
you even equate them to pets and cats or kittens. Why is that? Describe a bee to me in your opinion.
Well, they are furry. They're really cute. You can pet them. You can put honey on your fingertip and go up to a bee, and you can get her to crawl right on your finger. She'll just drink the honey. They're really actually quite gentle creatures. They're not really very aggressive. And I liken them to kittens because it's just a matter. They're playful. You can play with them and you can handle them really well. You just have to watch out for those claws, and those claws can give you a pretty good ouch every once in a while.
Yes, I think they can. All right. Well, when we come back, I want to talk with you about hobby beekeeping, because I know that that's what you're into, and actually there are quite a few people here in the Tri-Cities that are as well.
Yes.
We're talking with David White. Come back, we'll learn more about beekeeping in our area. We're talking with David White. He's with the Mid-Columbia Beekeepers Association. David, why would people want to have a beehive in their backyard?
Typically just because it's fun. Really, bees are really interesting. You never stop. I've been keeping bees for 40 years, and it seems like the more you learn, the less you know. And it's really fun. So it's just a great way to learn. Plus, the big thing is the honey that you get from your own backyard crop if you get honey in a year.
I was talking to a friend last night. We were, discussing your appearance today, and this person was saying, boy, I'd like to have bees in my backyard, but I don't have anything for them to eat in my backyard. How important is that? How far do they go?
What you have in your backyard, unless you have quite a few thousand acres, is of no significance to the bees, because they fly out pretty much typically around 1.5 mile radius. There is where they're doing the majority of their collection of food, which is the honey, the nectar, the pollen.
So they're going into other people's yards and they're stealing their honey out of their flowers.
Well, they're hitting it right. Exactly. Exactly.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah. How does that honey taste?
It tastes. It depends on the time of year. It depends on the food source. So it depends. So typically in our area, in the spring, early summer, even midsummer, we have a lighter, milder honey that'll be sweet, floral, mixed kind of a flavor. And then towards the fall, it will get to be really bitter. And we'll have stuff, you've probably seen rabbit brush around here. That will start to come in, and your people that are new beekeepers, that get calls every fall, new beekeepers, and they're saying, my hive smells really funny. What is going on? I said, does it smell like dirty socks? They said, yeah, that's rabbit brush. And it really stinks horrible. It tastes okay. It's kind of like Limburger cheese. It tastes all right, but man, it just stinks bad.
So, would I have to invest in protective gear? Do you cover yourself when you work with bees?
I personally don't. I recommend new beekeepers at least get a veil, maybe a light jacket. I recommend they don't wear gloves, get used to working bees without gloves. But typically you won't get stung much, but nobody likes to be stung in the face. So I recommend people use a veil, but again, I don't, and I'm not being just like a He-Man type thing. It's just that I'm getting older, I can't see, I need to wear my glasses, and so I just, yeah.
I'll take a few, old, doesn't it?
I'll take a few stings here and there.
Oh, well, how many times do you think you've been stung over these 40 years of working with bees?
Into the thousands. I think I gave up at 8,562. So
wow.
That was a long time ago. So yeah, it was a long time ago.
But the positive seem to overcome that. If people are interested in beekeeping, does your organization provide anything that helps people through that process and learn about it?
We do. We have people who mentor other people. Plus, we have courses that we give. We give a beginning beekeeping class, which actually is tied with the Washington State Beekeepers Association, and it's part of the Master Beekeeping course. And it's kind of like the Master Gardener course, but it has to do with bees. And they start out as the apprentice level, and we will get them to that apprentice level, and then from there on, they're kind of on their own to get the journeyman and master that we're still there to help them. But yeah, we give the classes every year, and we have meetings every month, 12 months of the year. And we have a lot of good resources. We have a Facebook page we're constantly posting information on. We have a website. So
how many members do you have? I mean, how many people in the Tri-Cities have beehives in their backyard?
Well, our group started about a little over 7 years. We're in our 7th year, so we started with a handful. There's probably 9 of us started. And at this last meeting we just had this past Tuesday, we had a pretty full room, and I think there was about 100 people. And that was at a meeting. So I'm sure if we had everybody get together, it'd be about 250 or so members.
Well, if my neighbor had a beehive, if you were my neighbor, for example, David, would I know?
No.
Why wouldn't I?
Because bees are just not, they're just flying up and out. If you're a good beekeeper, you're a good beekeeper neighbor, I should say, they should not know that you have bees. If you're a bad beekeeper neighbor, people are going to know you have bees. You're going to have a problem. You're going to have a problem with code enforcement, the city, and everything, and you're causing problems with all of us other beekeepers, and so we don't like that. So yeah, no, typically no. My neighbors know I have bees, but they don't know I have bees. They don't bother.
They're not bothered by
anybody.
them.
Right.
Okay, so here's my last question. What if I have a problem in my yard or something like that? Can I call upon your organization to help me out?
Yes, actually they can. You can. The best thing to do is go to our website, which is just Tri-City Bees. That's city as CITY bees.org, and there's a swarm button there. It's like the that was easy button, the easy button. You press that, it's a swarm button, and they'll pull up a list of people you can call.
Oh.
And we can get you in touch with someone. We have a lot of people who do bee removal for free. It's a no charge thing. So, because we're replenishing our losses typically in the wintertime that happen over the winter, so that's why we do it for free. Of course, if it's a removal from the wall, there could be a nominal charge on something like that.
All right. Well, David, this is actually pretty interesting. I appreciate you coming in today.
Well, I appreciate you having me. We do have a booth at the fair. People can see us, and we're at the spring and fall home shows. So if people want to learn about bees, just look us up there. We are definitely there.
Do a Google search, people. All right, we're back in just a moment to wrap up this Thursday. All right, we'll be right back.